And first question is, what major changes occurred in your daily life when the Nazis came to power?
What made me to change when the Nazis came in?
Yeah, when the Nazis came to power, what changes occurred in your life?
You know, when the Nazis came in, I was born in Czechoslovakia. My parents, my father was from the First World War, a soldier, which was hanging his picture in the restaurant. That's why he got a license, because in Europe to get a restaurant you had to have some kind of thing that you did something. So he was a good soldier, so he got a license for a restaurant. So I was born in that place. It was a town, a small town, like a village. There was about 150 families, and there was about 10 Jewish families. 1939, when the Germans Hitler attacked Austria. He took over Austria. After that was about 1938. I remember in 1938, I remember very good, I was sick. I had typhus, belly typhus. The doctors, my parents took me to the doctor. They gave me some kind of pills. I got better. Then, after they took Austria, they came to Czechoslovakia because the Germans had a part in Czechoslovakia. They called it the Sudetenland. Did you hear about that? Sudetenland. This was a part in Czech Republic. Czechoslovakia was a part divided in, like in 1, 2, 3, 4 parts, like states, like over here, let's say New Jersey, New York. And so Czechoslovakia was also, it was the Czech Republic, it was Moravia, a part also, and then it was Slovakia, and then it was Carpathia. In 1939, when the Germans came in, everything was changed. The Czechs were the master of the country. In the First World War, the Czech president was here in the United States, and he got married over here in, I think in Pittsburgh, I think. And after the war in 1918, he came back and he became the president. When the First World War ended, he took over the country. In 1939, when the Germans came in, they took away Sudetenland. This is a part from Czechoslovakia, from Czech Republic, one part where only Germans lived. They had their stores, their property, everything. Hitler took it back from the Czechs. That was in 1939. In 1940, they came already further. They came already to Prague, which is the capital of the Czechoslovakia. This was already the Czech country, not the Sudet, not the Germans, but the Czechs. Then was Moravia, was a part also. I could tell you approximately, in the Czech Republic they had about 10 million people. Moravia had maybe 7 million people. Slovakia had about 4 million people, and Carpathia had also about 4 or 5 million people. When the Germans came in 1939, those countries all divided. All the Czechs who were in Slovakia working, let's say, because it was one country, but the Czechs had the most power in those countries. They were police, mostly the Czechs, the high jobs, the Czechs. 1939, everything separated because the Slovak Republic became a president, a priest, a Catholic priest, heavy-set guy. He became the president. He became very friendly with Hitler. He went and he spoke to Hitler, and we were surrounded, the Slovak Republic, with countries, Hungary, Poland, Austria, surrounded, and we were in the middle. We would have a map, I would show you, surrounded. Hitler gave it back to Hungary from the Slovak Republic, a part where also a lot of Hungarian people lived. They spoke Hungarian. They didn't speak the language of the Slovak. Like I was born in Slovakia. I speak Slovak. I speak Hungarian also. But they came, they took away a part. They took Poland, took away a part from Slovakia, and then start a war. The Slovaks started a war with Hungary. Hungary attacked Slovakia. The war was about 1 week. I remember I was maybe about 16, 17 years old that time. I remember like today, because in back of my father's house, there were cannons. They shooting. So I remember the soldiers came in to drink to our restaurant. So there's like 1 week. Then the president who sold out, that Catholic, his name was Joseph Tiso. He sold out Slovakia, and especially he sold out the Jews. He paid for the Germans, for Hitler, like $1 for every Jew. He took it away and sent them to a concentration camp. This was in 1941. Everybody who was 20 years old, the country, it was every year, whoever was 20 years old had to go to the army. This was a law. In 1941, I was 20 years old. The Germans were already occupying there, but Tiso, the president, the Slovak, the Catholic, he made an agreement that he wants they should take away all the Jews. And he made an agreement with Hitler. He sold out the Jews. I was that time 20 years old. 20 years old, everybody had to go to the army. Jews, the Catholics, everybody who was 20 years old, you had to go. By October the 1st, you had to go to the army to report to the military. About 3-4 months before that, you had to go to a military doctor to be examined if you are fit for the army. Because that time, also in 1941, the Germans attacked Russia. So came October the 1st, we went to the doctor, examined, who was healthy, was accepted, and he had to go in October the 1st to the military. Do I have time to, because this is a long story. It's a very long story because my part, I went in 1941, they took me, and I was liberated in 1944 in December. So if I would have to tell you the whole story, would take days. I have over here my grandson. He's in the high school. He was in high school. I told him the story, and he wrote that in high school. You could see on the 2 pages. I have to tell you about those pictures also. I have to tell you the story. 1941, It was. Do you know what means Yom Kippur? Yom Kippur? You don't know. It's a Jewish holiday when they're fasting.
Oh, sir, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this interview. I'm sorry, but...
You don't have too much time, huh?
No, not too much.
Not too much time. All right, I'll make it shorter. In 1941, when I went I had to go to the army. So we were sent, the Jewish soldiers were sent to the army, separate to a different place than the Catholics. And we received a different uniform. The uniform looks like this. They should recognize that we are Jews. This was the uniform, black uniform, and the regular soldiers, the Catholic soldiers had a green uniform. We had a black uniform. First, before that, we had to wear a yellow band, and then we used to wear a Star of David. You know, they should recognize we are Jews. I was taken to that military camp, and we had to work. They gave us, instead of a rifle, they gave us a shawl. So here you could see how we were working, a group of people with shawls, we were working. Now I'll skip a lot of things. I'll come to the end. This was 1941. We were supposed to be there 2 years. 2 years the war was going on still. It was 1941, 42, 43, 44, 45. In 1940, the 2 years when I went in 1941, I was there 41, 42, 43. Not only me, but there were about 1,000 Jewish soldiers, Jewish labor camps. We were there about 2 years. After the 2 years, we heard rumors that Hitler wants to send us to Poland, to the concentration camp, to Auschwitz. You know what Auschwitz is? Auschwitz is where they killed the Jewish people, they burned them. But one officer from the Slovak army, who were also with the Germans, but he was a nice man, his name was Chatlos, he was a general. He said to the Germans, we could use those boys over here in Slovakia. We don't send them to Poland. And they agreed, we remained there, but they took away our uniform, they gave us civilian clothes. And we was working different jobs. I was in the 5 different camps. And the last camp was 1944. I was in a camp where we were working hydro central. You know what's a hydro central? Where they make electricity.
Yes.
We were about 100 boys working there, and we had 2 guys, 2 SS, Slovak SS, not Germans, Slovak SS, who joined the German army. They were watching us. We had to work 8 hours. They divided it in three sets. 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours, 24 hours. Some of them worked nights, some worked days, worked with the heavy work. We were getting food there. They didn't beat us, they were nice to us. In 1944, we got connection with the people. We used to live outside from the town, from a village. We had barracks. We shouldn't be in contact with the civilian. We shouldn't know what's going on on the front with the Germans. But during the night, we used to sneak into the village, and we found friends, and we became friends, and we were listening to the news on the radios at that time. There was 12 o'clock at night, there was the news from England. So, because the German had a propaganda, they're doing very good. But there came a time when they reached in Russia to Stalingrad, then they start pushing them back. So they didn't say that on the regular radio, only at night from England. And the people which we made contact in the village, they were friends of ours. Friends, Gentile, but friends. So we knew what was going on. I was caught by them. Then I escaped from the camp, and I went to the forest, to the guerrilla fighters. You know what's the guerrilla fighters? Guerrilla fighters is you are a soldier. You are a soldier, not in a uniform. You are volunteer fighting your enemy. So from Russia, they used to bring soldiers in civilian clothing during the night, drop them down from the planes in the forest, and they were organizing people who were on their side. We heard about this, and one morning we get up to go to work. All of a sudden we don't see our security guards. They just disappeared. They ran away because they heard about the same thing about the Russian coming, and they're organizing fighting them. So they got scared, they escaped. When they escaped, we were there about 100 boys. We escaped. We had prepared false papers, false IDs. Like my name is Ernest Biederman. Later, I had a false paper made. My name was George Drotar, a Slovak name. So somebody stopped me. So I said, they didn't know that I'm Jewish. So I was between the guerrilla fighters. And there was a part guerrilla fighters, a regular army. There were three kinds of soldiers. Went voluntarily, some people who must go, who was 20 years, they must go to the army. So there were three kinds. I was in the forest, and we didn't have what to eat. We were together, different groups, So we want to go down to the village and for food.